Hi Leo, welcome to your September 2018 Zerology 33 reading. We have a Celtic cross spread in front of us. Normally that's a 10 card spread, but you guys got a lot of extra cards here. And then we have an oracle card that we'll read at the end to help tie everything together. Since we have so many cards on the table, though, let's just jump right into it. A lot of major arcana too. But in the main situation position, we have the Justice card, and we have the Three of Swords. So, for some of you, this could be saying that if you had your heart broken, if a relationship broke up, let's say, you guys had that really intense eclipse at the very end of July. Maybe for some of you, that ended a relationship for you. If that's the case, what this could be saying is that now, this month, you'll get some justice there. For some of you, though, justice could also point to legal proceedings. So if it was an intense breakup like that, and eclipses can sometimes take things out of your life that aren't meant to be there. If that's the case, this could actually be saying that this month, maybe, let's say, you officially file for divorce, or the other person does. That's certainly a possibility. There's a lot of cards on the table, though, to get to, so we won't necessarily assume that. Another thing this could be pointing to as well, this is actually a Libra card. It represents 10 to 20 degrees of Libra, so certainly if you guys are dealing with the Libra and they were born, let's say, that first week of October, that's definitely pointing to this, and maybe that's even who the heartbreak occurred with. But keep in mind we are going to be moving into the time of Libra towards the end of the month of September, so maybe that would be when this would occur for some of you, but I'm really just looking at the general vibe. It seems a little more likely that this is something that already happened, and that's the case. There's just so many cards to get to that this could play out in multiple ways, so I won't dwell on this particular position too much longer. We'll refer back to it as we move along, but definitely looks like there was some kind of heartbreak here. And keep in mind that you guys had obviously the eclipses. Yes, you had the eclipse in your opposite sign the end of July. I'm recording this on the 21st of August, so earlier this month you guys had that new moon solar eclipse in your sign, so a lot of eclipse energy to clear up there. Mercury was going backwards in your sign. Mars was moving backwards in your opposite sign for a long time, so there definitely could have been some crossed wires in relationships. Speaking of which, Mercury, at the time I'm recording this, started to move forward again. It'll be in your sign through the first week of September. And then Mars will actually be going over those degrees that it did go into during that eclipse. It'll be going over those same degrees again in September as well. So now with both those planets in forward motion, that could be saying, especially if this is something that already happened, now the Justice card being there, it's going to even things out, whether that means you guys get back together, since we do have the Regeneration card as your Oracle card, or it just says that now you guys, even if it's not a marriage, this could just be representing formally splitting up, saying, okay, we had a lease together, let's break the lease, whatever we have to do, so on and so forth. But yeah, for some of you, it could be actual legal proceedings. The challenge position, though, we have the Lovers. So this certainly points to it being a love situation for most of you. Like I said, between that and then the fact that you did have that eclipse, intense eclipse in your opposite sign at the end of July, definitely could point to that. For some of you, it could be a Gemini that you were dealing with. Possibly someone that has both Libra and Gemini in their chart. That's a possibility. But what I'm really thinking here is this could just be saying that why this Three of Swords and everything is such a challenge for you, and why the Justice being there, why the Lovers is a challenge, is you still love the person. So let's say it's someone that split from you. you could still love the person, and that's why it's giving you that Three of Swords energy. Like, say someone out of the blue came up to you and said they wanted a divorce, right? That gave you that Three of Swords energy. And it's a challenge for you to go through that process because you still love the person. That's one way of looking at it. For some of you, the lovers is sometimes referred to as a third party situation. I really don't see it that way normally, but maybe that is what's at play here, since we do have that and we have the Three of Swords. So if one of you was actually cheating in the relationship, it was found out, that's what brought all this on, and now justice is like, okay. And that's something to keep in mind too. You guys are pretty much done with the eclipses in your sign and your opposite sign. I think you have one in Leo at 0 degrees coming up next time the sun is in Aquarius, but that's it. Then they'll be moving to Cancer and Capricorn. But essentially, those times are very karmic times. So you have to really be on top of your game during those times. So if you were the one who was doing wrong, it's not a surprise that it came back on you, but we'll see what happens as we go along. We'll probably get a little bit more clarity on the situation. The reason why I'm saying that the love is still there is at the foundation too, we have the 10 of Cups. So this could just be saying a few things. This could just be saying that this is how established the relationship was. I mean, maybe we're talking about you guys are married and you have children. That could be what it's saying. But to me, this is just saying as the foundation that there's love. The love is still there. Whether it's one-sided or not, we'll see as we go along. But to me, it's, combining this with the lovers shows me that there's still love there. And like I said, you do have regeneration. I should point out Aries actually had that card as well as their oracle cards. If you guys are dealing with an Aries, you should check out their reading, or if you have Aries in your chart, like let's say you're an Aries moon or Aries rising, you might want to check that out. Because in the past position too, we have the Queen of Wands. And this is normally my card that represents Aries, so it's certainly possible some of you are dealing with an Aries. And another thing that I'm thinking about looking at this card too is Aries, for example, was ruled by Mars. So, like I was saying, you guys had Mars going retrograde through your opposite sign of Aquarius. Now it's in Capricorn, which is your 6th house. But it will be going back forward into those degrees of Aquarius. I think around the 10th of September or so is when it's going to be back in there, and it'll pass over those exact degrees from where that eclipse that happened in Aquarius was. And it's also going to connect with Uranus again the same way, and Uranus is in your 10th house. So a lot of that energy can resurface again. And with it all in forward motion this time, for some of you there will be a chance, especially with regeneration there, that things could be cleared up, whether it's reconciling or even just with the Justice card here, like we said, now, maybe you guys separated, and now you, at this point, once the planets pass over those degrees again, maybe you're able to formalize it more at that stage. All right, in the present position, we have the 4 of Cups and the 8 of Wands. So this could just be saying that you're receiving a lot of communication, maybe from that other person, right? And you're disappointed with whatever offer they make to you. That could go a few ways, if they're offering to reconcile, maybe you're not really open to it at this point, especially if you're the one experiencing that 3 of Swords energy, or on the flip side, if it's you're the one who's communicating to them, maybe they're in that 4 of Cups energy, which is, it doesn't, it looks like somebody did someone wrong. I can't tell for sure who did what in this scenario, but obviously what the most likely scenario would be whoever was the one who had stepped out on the relationship, or even, even if they didn't cheat, if they were being harsh to the person or neglecting the person, if they come back now trying to communicate, the other person might be very reluctant to accept it because they're probably still in that Three of Swords energy. And, you know, actually really leaning towards it being you guys that were the ones who were doing something wrong. No offense, but we'll get to why I think that's the case as we go a little bit further. All right, in the near future position, we have the High Priestess and the Nine of Swords. So this is just saying that there's probably anxiety behind the situation, maybe not knowing what next step to take. Since this is the near future, it could be, for example, maybe you thought, or whoever was the Eight of Wands in the situation thought, okay, I'll just, communicate to them, let them know what was going on, apologize, try to reconcile. And then when they get met with that Four of Cups energy of the person not really, being open to the reconciliation, then maybe that really has you worrying, like, oh, what am I going to do now? What's my next step? But, this is saying to trust your intuition in that case. If that's what you're feeling, you're really just going to have to stop overthinking it, right? Nine Swords, that just means being trapped in your thoughts. Stop overthinking it. Trust yourself. Like I said, there's love here. The Ten of Cups, the Lovers. So, just follow your heart if that's the case. But one thing that sticks out in my mind is that I'm going to keep the Nine of Swords on the top here, even though it was the other way around before. Just because this is going to come into play when we get to the environment position, and why I think it might actually be the other person that's experiencing anxiety here. So let's move on to your influence on the situation. Your influence in the situation, we have the Knight of Swords, and we have the Hanged Man. So I should point out, Hanged Man and the High Priestess, those cards point to Pisces for me a lot of the times. So some of you can be dealing with the Pisces. Maybe that's what was going on. Another thing this could be saying, though, is maybe you've been thinking about your next steps. What should you do? Whether, like I said, whether you're the one who was doing wrong and now you have to approach the person to reconcile, or if they were the one who did you wrong. Either way, it seems to have you in this position where you're really thinking about things, trying to look at things from a different perspective, maybe deciding what your next move should be. But you combine that with the Knight of Swords, and a few things stand out to me with that. Knight of Swords, it's a Gemini card normally, but sometimes it could represent combative communication, sometimes just rapid communication though. And in particular, what I'm thinking this means in this position is the fact that you have Mercury in your sign right now. Mercury is the ruler of Gemini. It was going retrograde around the time of these eclipses and everything. It's moving forward again now. It'll be in your sign for, I think, the first week of September. So this could just be saying that with Mercury in your sign and with it moving forward, you have that Gemini energy in you. And that's where this comes into play, where, you feel the need to, all right, I need to communicate. So if that's the case, that leads me to believe that this would be you in the Eight of Wands scenario. And then this would be the other person. Likewise, it could both be you. It might be saying that you're communicating that you're disappointed in them and what they did. That's certainly a possibility as well. Because like I said, for some of you, it's not going to be that you're all the ones who are doing something wrong. It seems like it definitely could go either way. So you just might be communicating. But I'm looking at the fact that he's moving towards the Ten of Cups. So to me, this could be saying that you actually want to reconcile. But then if you look at the card and how it has a bit of an aggressive vibe to it, could be saying that you're saying, you know what? I just want to cut this off for good. And that's where the Justice, Three of Swords comes into play. You say, you know what? whatever the person did to you that was wrong, you decided it was just too much. You don't want to reconnect. You just want to cut ties and formalize a divorce. That could be what's at play there. All right. And then in the position of the environment, you have the Four of Pentacles in reverse and the Five of Cups in reverse. So the good news is, if you were the one who wants to reconcile and you need to make an offer, these are both cards. This is a card about when it's in the reverse. Let's look at them in the upright. But let's remember that they are reversed as we talk about them. So the Five of Cups is about being disappointed rather. You look at the person, they're staring at those three cups, and then there's the two behind them. So that could be pointing, again, like I said, with the regeneration card there, this could be pointing to the possibility for reconciliation. But if you look at the number of the cards, just the way they're broken down, this could definitely be saying that there was some third-party environment, because they're looking at that and they're thinking about how it ruined everything, whereas behind them, before the third party was involved, it was just the two of you, right? So they're like, all right, we had this sturdy, stable foundation behind us. Third person got involved in the mix and knocked everything over, so they're looking at it like there's, it can't be salvaged. And then combine that with the Four of Pentacles, they're feeling closed off. This could definitely be related to finances, no doubt, but the main thing it represents to me is they're closed off, so they're not wanting to invest any more time, energy, whatever the case may be. And that's where they're, at. But when they're both reversed, what that says is that they could be more willing to open up now, and, maybe they're willing to actually at least consider rebuilding with you. So that's a good sign, where, like I said, if in the present situation you have Four of Cups, with some time, especially if this is them, right? Maybe they're the ones who take a little more time. They really think things over. I mean, once you say what you need to say, it's out there, right? So if that's what you feel inclined to do, you might as well do it if you want to reconnect with this person. But put it out there. Once it's out there, that might give them anxiety, but maybe they'll, rely on their intuition. Or, like I said, for some of you, this could just be pointing to you're dealing with a Pisces. So maybe this is even saying that you're looking at things, looking at things from their perspective, and maybe once you look at it from their perspective, you come in and say, all right, I want to, try to fix things. That could be what's at play. And like I said, for all of you, don't get me wrong, it's not all that the other person is innocent here. It could be that they were the one that did this, and they realize that they're the ones who, caused all these issues, and now they're the ones who are opening up. And maybe they were the ones who communicated with you, and you weren't really feeling it at the time. But after thinking it over some more, you either decide, there's definitely movement here. So this is communication. So you either communicate that you want to work to repair this, or you want to cut it off and just, go your separate ways. What makes it even trickier to figure out is if we look at the hopes or fears position, you have the Death card and the Judgment card. So one thing I should point out is these are both Scorpio cards for me. Everyone recognizes this one as the Scorpio Major Arcana card, but I also view this as a Scorpio card. A lot of people don't. More of a Pluto card, but Pluto is the ruler of Scorpio. And you often hear the 8th house, which is the house that Scorpio rules. You probably hear it referred to as the house of death and rebirth. That's a lot of what leads me to tie both these cards to Scorpio as well. Obviously, death, self-explanatory. Judgment doesn't necessarily say rebirth, but if you look at the actual images, it looks like people rising from the dead, right? So you could be dealing with a Scorpio. So I mean, this was definitely water energy there. And like I said, that's normally Pisces for me, but it could definitely be a Scorpio, maybe even someone with both of those placements. Um, then again, Scorpio being your fourth house too, this could just be saying, you're hoping to restore your home and family life. Fourth house is related to home life, family life. So maybe that's saying that, you had the separation and now you're hoping to, you know, end that stage of the separation and get back together. Another thing this could be pointing to, though, is see how the horn is, it seems like they're blaring the horn towards the woman there. Could just be saying that if this is the divorce route, that most likely it would work out in the woman's favor. So just something to keep in mind there. That's not going to be the case for all of you, though. And then in the outcome position, we have the Page of Swords. So this is probably one of the lighter cards of the whole reading, right? So this could just be saying that at the end of the month there will be more communication. Sometimes it's not the deepest level of communication, so could just be that you guys really go over these bumps in the road. Like I said, with Mars going back over the degrees that it did when you had that eclipse in your opposite sign, and now it's in forward motion, that could give you an opportunity to clear some of that energy up. And then Mercury going positive, going direct in your sign again, rather, that's a positive sign that you could clear things up on your end if you need to communicate. And another thing this could be pointing to as well is maybe you have to humble yourself to a certain extent, because you represented by the Knight of Swords here, down to the Page of Swords, maybe it's saying, especially if this is the state that this person is in with that high anxiety and they're worried, maybe you try to rush in and fix everything all at once, right? You bombard them with the messages, that's with the Eight of Cups, and they're not open to it. And then you might need to understand that, okay, you know what, let me give them some time. And then, like I said, when the planets pass over those degrees from the eclipse again, then okay, you should be, if it's meant to get back together, it could at that point. So just try not to overdo it. That might be saying what it is there. Say what you need to say. If they seem to shut it down initially, just try to give it time. I know it could be difficult, but that might be your best bet. You certainly do seem to be encouraged to say what you need to say, though. There's nothing here that indicates to me that you shouldn't speak up, but once it's out there, don't necessarily expect them to just run and jump it back into your arms. If you're the one who's offering reconciliation, give it some time. And with, these are just in your hopes or fears position, so there's definitely no guarantee that, okay, this is going to come back together. But if we combine it with the Oracle card you have, that does increase the chances that you actually can get things back on track. And like I said, with this card here, you do have, to me, this and the Lovers show me that even though you guys are in this energy now with the Three of Swords and the Justice, that could be even an eye for an eye type thing, right? Maybe one of you, whoever got done wrong, you're in that stage of, oh, well, they did this to me, I'm going to do this to them. I'm going to balance the scales, right? Maybe that's what these two cards are saying. So if that's the case, it doesn't look like that would necessarily work out too well either, but regardless, it looks like there's love there. So whether you were the one who did something wrong and you need to work to fix it, keep that in mind. Or, if they were the ones who did you wrong, it looks like there's still love there either way. So something to think about. Looks like communicating is definitely going to be important. We have the King of Pentacles at the bottom of the deck. So for some of you, it could be that a Taurus was the third party, or any earth sign. Could also be a Virgo or a Capricorn, but this is normally my Taurus card. Or this could just be pointing to the 10th house. Taurus is your 10th house, so that points to social status and career sometimes. So For some of you, this could even be a career situation, but vast majority of you, I'd say 90%, this looks like this is a romantic relationship. Um, and if that's the case, Uranus actually was squaring that eclipse at the end of July in your opposite sign too. So Uranus is moving backwards now. So maybe when Mars passes that again, that could bring this situation back up for resolution. All right, and your oracle card, like we were talking about before, is regeneration. It's the artwork for it, and number 46. So I don't know, it almost looks like a tree starting to grow out of a volcano or something, right? So meaning, especially like I said, you have the judgment card there, something that you thought maybe was dead and gone. Maybe you have a chance to fix it if that's really what you want to do. All right. So the message says rebirthed, second chances, new opportunities. The Oracle's message: second chances are available to you now. Whatever opportunities you thought were dead and are now revived in a more authentic, stronger form. Whatever you may have perceived as a failure or a loss is now being replaced by something better and more powerful growing in its place. This rebirth is assured. Step into your new life. Destiny is being fulfilled in wondrous ways. And like I said, the main thing to keep in mind is these were the last of the eclipses. The one at 0 degrees Leo is probably just going to feel like a blip in the radar for you compared to all of these. And then you guys are done with the eclipses altogether. That one at the end of July was particularly tough. We get eclipses every year, but you're not always going to have them with Mars going retrograde and Uranus. So that was a pretty intense one, especially for the fixed signs and especially Aquarius and Leo, obviously. But for you, with that taking place in your opposite sign, that definitely could have caused some relationship issues. Usually, though, with those eclipses, it's asking you to let go of something that doesn't serve you anymore in your life, but that doesn't mean letting go of that person. It could just mean the way that you guys are interacting with each other. So like we said, if you had a third party, that means the eclipse is telling you need to let that go or lose this connection forever. And maybe that's what you found. Or vice versa, if it was the other person that was doing that. But keep in mind, it looks like there's definitely a lot of love there if you do want to reconnect. It's just going to take some work and patience. You're going to have to say what you need to say and try to give them some time and space. And for those of you, if this is the divorce route, having justice in the upright in the main situation means that should work out fairly as well. So, my apologies for those of you if you are getting divorced, but at least you have that in your favor. Relationship message, it says the world is based on connections and relationships. No matter what loss has occurred in the past or even now, death and endings are only illusions. There is life after death, love after loss, and in this moment, you are radiating the regenerative life force energy that makes you irresistible to love in all forms. Now is the time when you will see evidence of this new emergence. Can you feel it? Love is rising up to greet you. Well, I will say the love is rising up to greet you part. Looks like it might be a little slow going as far as the environment position. This looks like someone who's coming out of disappointment and they're starting to open up. I still believe that that's this person. So there's still anxiety around it. So it might be a slow reconnection. But like I said, the planetary energies going back over those same spots they did during those eclipses should definitely be helpful for you. So something to keep in mind there. And for some of you, a smaller portion of you, this could even just be someone new coming along. If you did already go through a separation and you're already formally going through a divorce, maybe that's what this is saying too. Didn't cross my mind until now. Maybe you have someone that you're in a, that you're interested in, but one of you needs to wrap up a divorce. Maybe you're legally separated, but you have to officially get divorced before you guys can be together. That's a possibility for some of you. All right, and even though, like I said, I didn't get much of a vibe for this being finances, think you guys had a lot of finance energy last month, but we'll read the prosperity message either way. It says, what happens when it appears you failed at something? Do you see the beauty in the lesson? The understanding that arises from difficulties is like a seed that lies dormant for a time. Then, once it germinates in your subconscious, it pushes through into your awareness. It is becoming apparent that there is a new you, a new start. A more powerful version and form of what you began to plant in the garden of your imagination has surfaced. You are ripe for success. New opportunities, much better than those that came before, appear like gifts from the gods. Now is one of those times when out of seeming loss and failure comes remarkable abundance. Do not dwell on the past because you really are experiencing a rebirth. So, like I said, I didn't get much of a finance vibe there. I mean, really, aside from having the King of Pentacles at the bottom of the deck, there wasn't much pointing to Pentacles energy for you guys. This just really feels like it was a love relationship thing. Like I said, though, for those of you who also have Aries in your chart, you might want to check out their reading because theirs did seem to have more of the love energy that goes with the rebirth energy a little bit more than this. This looks like it's going to be a pretty intense month for you guys, and that's the case. I'm sorry if it resonates for you because it does look like it'll be rough, but it looks like as you come through towards the end of the month, though, it might start to play out a little bit more positively. All right, so we'll wrap up there, guys, and I'll talk to you all next month.